Are you getting divorced?
At the moment, no. But it doesn't look good.
Do you still love us?
Of course I do.
Do you still love Mom?
Yes, very much, but your mother's asked me to leave, and I must respect her position on the matter.
Was it our fault?
No. Oh, obviously, we made certain sacrifices as a result of having children, but no, Lord, no.
Then why'd she ask you to leave?
I don't really know anymore.
Okay, let's all go. Let's go.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? It's a show where we talk about movies. Specifically, we talk about a movie at least one of us has never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, aka TV Travis. This is episode number 300 of this show. And joining me this week to talk about the 2001 Wes Anderson film that I had never seen before, from Ake Willow, and those were the days, it's Amy Frost.
Hi.
And also from the Botched podcast, it's Phil Keating.
Hi, everyone. It's me, Philip D. Thanks, Travis, for having me back.
Well, you know, it's episode 300. It's a big milestone episode for me. I wanted to have two of my favorite people on here. And,
heck.
you know, we last time you were both on, we watched The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. I loved it. And you decided at that point that you were going to be my Wes Anderson parents and shepherd me through his filmography. So we're back to do another one. And
I mean, the bad news is that Wes Anderson parents are not good. We are going to damage you.
Which is why I feel like we're good for this role.
And when the topic came up and we were discussing, which Wes Anderson movie should we do next, the two of you conferred and decided Wes Anderson's Royal Tenenbaums. So first, I want to know, Phil, we'll start with you, your history on the movie, then Amy, and then I want to know why you chose this one to do now. So, Phil, go ahead.
This is my first Wes Anderson movie. I was going through a very serious breakup, and my friends, to get me out of the situation that I was in, whisked me away to a magical place called State College, Pennsylvania, also known as Penn State campus, to kind of get away from everything. And like a great cringe daddy that I am, I locked myself in my friend's room for 3 days, and this is the only DVD he had. So after a reputable beating of oneself up with some very cheap Bankers Club and some stale Camel Lights, I stumbled into the DVD player and put this in and was hooked from the second the movie started, right?
Obviously, you were currently living in it.
Well, the thing is, right, is that like that whole weekend that I was there, I watched this movie 10 to 15 times. Like, and it completely, I will tell you, like, it kind of changed the outlook that I had on like cinema and how to do it. And especially as a film student, like looking at the different symmetrical shots and the fashion concept for all these characters. But the thing that I would like to touch on later on in the show is the soundtrack and how much it influenced young Philip's musical taste, and also what young Philip and now old Philip plays on guitar constantly. So I loved it, and I still love it. And coming back to it is just like, it's like seeing my old dysfunctional family that I haven't seen in 3 to 4 years.
Oh, that's an amazing story. Amy, what about you? What's your history with this one?
This is also my first Wes Anderson movie. I was in art school. So when you're in art school and you see a Wes Anderson film, it's influential.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure people will disagree with me, but I feel like of all the Wes Anderson movies, this is the Wes Andersonist movie. You know what I mean? Like, especially like with the book covers and like all of it, right? And like things deviate and evolve as we go along, but like this is it. This is the cornerstone. And I don't think it's just because it was the first one I saw. And so, yeah, no, art student, saw this film. There's elements too, right? Because I'm like the first movie I ever made you watch was Amelie, and one of my favorite things in that movie is how we introduce characters by talking about things they like and don't like. And
Mhm.
it's the same vibe. You know what I mean? Like it's that same thing. Came out, I believe, the same year. So like, yeah. I was like, I'm all in. This is
Sure.
someone like, and I think up until this point, there wasn't like I wouldn't say that there was any director in particular. Like there were plenty of directors that like I liked things they did, right? Um, but Wes Anderson was the first director that I said, "Oh, this man makes things for me. I understand now." You know what I mean? So all it needs is his name attached, and I go, "Okay, sure, I'm in."
Yeah. No, I can see that.
Mhm.
All right. So you two conferred and decided this was the one to do.
Yep.
Why? What
Well,
made you decide that?
literally, like you said, it's up to you two, and then we held hands and
Yeah.
said 1, 2,
2,
3,
3.
Royal
Royal
Tenenbaums,
Tenenbaums.
and that was it. Like
Yeah, I mean,
that's all the discussion we had because that's all the discussion we needed. Like, I didn't know that this was also Amy's first Wes
yeah.
Anderson movie, but also, in my opinion, like this is your archetype for a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah.
Like even down to the script below each chapters, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Narrating exactly how the scene is opening. Like you can't get more. And oh my gosh, the library book opening, right?
Mhm.
And getting stamped with the date. Like, come on,
So good.
baby.
Plus, you know, it is of this recording, it is the Sunday before Christmas, and depending on your relationship with your family, this could be a Christmas movie. Um,
Plus, I did clock also.
mhm,
Speaking of music, the
mhm.
it's Christmas time is here, playing in the
2
background.
different versions,
Yeah.
twice in the film, 2 versions.
Yep.
So it is 100% a Christmas movie.
I'm
This
sold.
is just a more complex Family Stone, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And what's more Christmas and holiday than all the people in your family coming home and continuously fighting about things that happened 25 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
It's
you're
real
not
good.
wrong. So obviously I had not seen this before. And up until today, the only 2 Wes Anderson films I'd seen, I saw Rushmore years and years ago. I liked it, but it didn't blow me away in a sense, and so I never got back into Wes Anderson stuff. And then, but I did enjoy it. I remember liking the movie.
Yeah, but Travis, he saved Latin. I mean, what else do you want? What else do you want from him?
It was a thing, I think, where younger me just wouldn't appreciate Wes Anderson the way that I do now, which is kind of dumb because I was into making film, so you would think that that would have been right up my alley, but I just never got around to him. So when you guys said, "Well, we're going to make you watch Steve Life Aquatic," and I loved that. It was absolutely amazing. So sitting down to watch this for the first time, it had me from the moment they stamped the library book. I'm like, well, I'm
So
in.
good.
You've got me already, Wes. And it just got better and better from there. And it starts with the damn cast in this. Now, all his movies, looking at the cast lists on them, are fantastic. But and he has his stable, right? He's got
Mhm.
his people that show up a lot. But holy crap, like it was just one person after another after another. I love Gene Hackman, and I understand that he could be at times difficult to work with. And this movie in particular, I did read about him and Wes Anderson having a contentious relationship, I think would be a kind way to put it. Basically, Gene Hackman was old and curmudgeonly and said, "Yeah, I'll do that movie if it's fun for me." And then he got on set and it wasn't fun for him, and so he like was apparently kind of a bully, from what I read, um,
Hmm.
to the point where, according to, and again, this is all internet trivia, but Bill Murray would show up on his off days to kind of protect Wes Anderson from Gene Hackman.
Listen.
And look, Gene Hackman is one of the all-time yellers in cinema history.
Sure.
Like he's amazing at that. So I could also see where that could be turned on a director and be be pretty tough to deal with. But he is fantastic in this. I absolutely adore him as Royal. Royal is terrible,
Mhm.
but he has an arc, and
Sure.
I really dug that. And we can kind of go into that a little bit. But like starting off with him, and then it just goes from there. Like Angelica Houston, my goodness, I loved
I
her
mean,
in
we all
this.
need it. Yeah, I mean,
But
Angelica Houston.
she had some of my single favorite moments. I'll bring up later. A couple that just made me smile for these little tiny small things that happened in scenes, and it just kept going. And then on top of Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson, you get Bill Murray in there, Danny Glover,
Mhm.
and then Alec Baldwin's the narrator, which
Yeah.
is fantastic. Gwyneth Paltrow, who
And yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow, man.
I'm not the biggest Gwyneth Paltrow fan, but she's really good in this.
She's so good in this.
Like,
She's a
she really-
fashion icon in this.
Yeah.
Man.
So the fashion in this was like, this is interesting because, I mean, of the Wes Anderson movies that I've seen, but also like I've seen lots of clips and lots of still frames from them. So I know he's very meticulous in like his shot setups and things like that. But they always have such a distinct look to them. And they always, it's funny to me how all of his movies look like Wes Anderson movies, but they don't all look the same either.
No, but you can identify them at 30 paces.
Oh, yes.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Any frame. Absolutely.
Because this had like this was set in 2001, right? I'm not crazy. Like the date was 2001, and I think even the dates on the gravestones were.
Yeah, they were 2021. Yep.
But it had this weird out of time feel to it as well, with the look of everything. Everything looked like it was about 20 or 30 years older than that throughout the movie, which was really cool because it gives it a timeless feel while also feeling dated at the same time.
Well, it's kind of like, especially with the wardrobe, is like the children, their clothes that they're wearing still embodies where most of their trauma happened, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Richie is still wearing his tennis uniform.
Tennis uniform. Yeah.
Mhm.
Margot is always still wearing her elegant dresses, but still having her black eye paint. Like that, I mean, it just kind of works that like their trauma was kind of from late 70s, and so that's where they kind of hit their maturity, even though they've grown and aged way past that.
And it's where
I
they
mean,
peaked. You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like
100%.
Yeah.
it's that guy that peaked in high school that is still hanging out at the bar in your hometown wearing his football jersey.
But like,
You know.
if you look at it, Richie is still sleeping in his childhood tent in the living room. And if you look very closely, and I've been watching this movie for 20 some years, and I just noticed it, around the record player is still his car collection.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
His trophies.
yeah, everything, the paintings of Margot still on the walls and all that. It's like time kind of, like you said, Amy, that's when they peaked, and that's when time stopped.
Yeah, and that's when Royal left and they were just with their mom, and then things, went the way that they did. But everyone in this is spot on perfect for the roles that they're playing. And it's hard to imagine anyone else doing any of these roles. Grain of salt on trivia, but the one that I did read that could have been somebody different was Royal. And you tell me what you think of this. Gene Wilder apparently turned down the role of Royal Tenenbaum. That's a very different movie if it's Gene Wilder playing that role.
I agree. And I would hate to see Gene Wilder in this role.
Yeah.
Because it works to have Hackman there, because you have to have that pompous con man that Gene Hackman plays so well. And like, to see a comedic, always like an up and bubbly kind of guy, especially who Gene Wilder was, like, it just doesn't mentally fit for me. And it definitely would have been a different movie to see the darker connish side of like one of my comedic heroes come in here and play that.
I mean, I feel like he could have played the role, and I think he would have been really good in that role. But there's something about Gene Hackman as he's such a good actor in terms of just becoming interesting characters, because he can play, I mean, he's played some of the worst villains I've ever seen, right? Like Little Bill in Unforgiven. It's interesting. He plays a lot of villains in Westerns, I noticed, because the other one I can think of is The Quick and the Dead, where he's playing a different Western villain, but they're terrible, awful characters. And he's so good at that, but he can also be a good character. He can be he's incredibly funny. Like, I think Gene Hackman's underrated in how funny he was, because he had a very dry style.
So good in the Birdcage.
Oh, so good in the Birdcage.
So good.
And Wilder has that darker side to him. Willy Wonka.
He's for sure a con man. I mean, there is that.
Well, true.
But it's a different type.
It's so different.
And I think for the rest of this cast, I think Hackman works better.
Yeah.
So that was just one that just kind of jumped out at me like, huh. I also read that Danny Glover, Luke Wilson, and Owen Wilson turned down parts in Ocean's 11 to be in this movie. Nice. And if that's true, Ocean's 11 would have been very, very different with those three. So, although
I do like the idea of Luke and Owen Wilson as the Mormon brothers. That is actually pretty good.
Okay,
that's pretty good. That'd be all right. It would be very similar, honestly.
True. No, just everybody in this, top to bottom, was great. And I did Dusty, the elevator operator / fake doctor, Seymour Castle. When he showed up, I'm like, why do I know him? And it's just, I've seen him in so much stuff. Yeah. But it took me a while to figure out who it was. I'm like, no, I know that face. Why do I know that face? And finally figured out that it was Seymour Castle. Also, another Wilson, by the way, is in this.
Yeah, well, yeah, the tennis announcers during Richie's meltdown, right?
That was Wes Anderson and Alex Wilson. Was that his name? The other Wilson brother. But he also played one or two small roles because he was the farmer that cuts off her finger.
Oh, the Mennonite family.
Yeah, because when he spoke, I was like, oh, that's a Wilson. Like, as soon as he started talking.
That look in the pipe falling out of his mouth gets me every time.
There are a ton of those kinds of moments in this too that just made me laugh for the absurdity of them. I think I've been struggling with this kind of all day as I've been thinking about this movie, because I only have Rushmore and Life Aquatic to compare this to, in terms of like where I would put this in my Wes Anderson ranking at this point. Sure. I like this better than Rushmore. I can't decide if I like it better than Life Aquatic or not. Both of them are so good.
You don't have to.
That's true. I don't have to.
Because I was thinking about it today, because I'm already thinking about all right, what do we do next? And I can't, I don't have, it's just a mood. It's just, what vibe are you in today? That's where you're at.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You're allowed to like things, on the same level, right? Yeah. Because they're two. You know what? That's your favorite Wes Anderson action comedy, and this is your favorite Wes Anderson. Well, for the moment, dysfunctional family.
We'll watch Darjeeling Limited. It'll be great.
No, I just all the way through it. Now, two things that happen in the background of shots that I immediately noticed and just tickled me to no end happened. With one of them is, let's see, it was the scene where Danny Glover, who I loved in this, and he looked great, just looked like $1 million. But when he proposes to Etheline, I love Pagoda in the background of that shot, because as soon you got just the shot on her, and as soon as the words come out of his mouth, you see Pagoda take off his headphones. Like, he heard what's happening. He's like, what the hell? That I just saw that immediately. I'm like, that's genius. And at that point I had no idea that Pagoda was like the inside man feeding Royal any information. I just thought it was a hilarious moment. made even better with the payoff of it. And then the other one, I'm trying to think where I wrote it down, but it was this one was Royal talking to Ethylene. So both of these moments happen with Ethylene, and he's talking about Danny Glover, about Henry, and he says something, and Henry kind of hears him in the background, and you just get Danny Glover like sitting there, and then all of a sudden he looks over, like, the hell did you just say? And it's just great. Like it's small things. They don't need either of those in those scenes to make them work or to make them funny. It just adds so much more to it.
I think my favorite Glover scenes is when they're talking in the dig site. Just like falls right into the dig hole.
I definitely captured that in video form and made
the
it.
Camera just keeps going with Ethylene, right? I love it. It still cracks me up. And then on a sweeter side, like when he pulls his glasses up and his tie is stuck in his glasses, and she gingerly gets the tie out for him, man. It warms my heart so much. And like you're right, man. His wardrobe it popped. Those heavy blues that he wears, man, just works so well.
Yeah.
And man, best dressed, man. I loved it.
Yeah, nothing, in any of these Wes Anderson movies, there's nothing that is a mistake or an accident. Like he plans all of this out, and you know that. And it just looks so good. And even like you mentioned the tie, and I love the tie on the glasses. That's a heartwarming moment. But for me, the one that just warmed my heart was that same scene in the construction or the dig site, the archaeology site, before he falls. He's talking to her, and just Angelica Houston's smile is so genuine in that moment. Like Ethylene as a character is just so taken with him in that moment. And I absolutely loved that, because she really does care about him and wants to be with him. And then they go on and are having their talk, and you get the hilarious moment of him falling in that hole, which I absolutely captured, and I'm keeping that forever. It cracked me up. I laughed, so I had to stop, back it up. I watched it like 3 or 4 times. It was so good. Yeah, but those moments with her, she is so genuine I mean, everybody is, right? All these characters have these moments that just give you this genuine sense of emotion at some point or another, whether it's, like Raleigh St. Clair, Bill Murray's character, a few times has those, or Richie obviously has that. Richie also has, the big gut punch moment that I wasn't prepared for at all. Didn't even see coming when the scene started.
Yeah.
We're going to get there. I don't want to go there yet.
He told you. He said the words.
No. He said them right before it happened. I'm talking about when the scene itself started. But, even Royal has these moments of like clarity and sort of growth throughout the movie. And that, I think, is a really important thing, to have characters, because Royal Tenenbaum is not a great guy. He's very selfish. He's, kind of racist, which was brought out in some great character moments. I wrote a few of those down, and I captured some audio of some of that. We'll probably play in a little while. But, you just had those moments, but everybody had that. Even Chaz has it, Ben Stiller. His take longer. It's more towards the end when he finally kind of comes around, but just all of it, just everybody in this is so good, and the music is on point, and everything looks right. And I can't find a flaw in this movie. I really can't.
Well, not only that, but also roughly, right? You have about 10 main characters in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And each one of them in 140 minutes has their own arc that doesn't feel rushed. It's properly paced, right?
Yeah.
Beautifully written. And like everything kind of makes that arch all at the same time. And you watch each character, going through their arc, and they're all at the same level as the movie progresses, to the great, crescendo at the end, which even has its own lovable moments. And that crane shot, that one shot at the end with the fire truck and going, for a good, I would say 7 minutes, just hitting each and every character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another one of my favorite Glover moments where like you have all this chaos and destruction and, drama with family and all this. And still he's taking time out of his day to talk to his son about deductibles and insurance and what you should and shouldn't claim, right? It's like
load-bearing structure.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the dog that was hit. I'm not worried about the priest that was supposed to marry us. No, let's talk right now because this is a learning moment. It's a low-bearing structure and you don't know, so you might as well put the claim through anyway.
Yep.
I loved it.
Okay.
I loved it.
One fault in the movie. One singular fault. But it's me, so you see this coming. They hit Buckley at the end.
They did hit Buckley.
And that made me very sad because I love Buckley.
But I understand it, right?
I
because
do. Oh yeah.
But it also then completes the circle between Chaz and Royal. It's just like
it does.
Not only did I save your kids and I'm not the one who told you, nor did I even double guess myself, but here, I'm sorry this happened to you and you have another loss in your life. Let me at least now, 20 years too late, give you something not only for you and your kid, and your kids to kind of cope.
Yes. This is one of the few times where I won't get angry at the movie for killing the dog because I understand narratively what they were doing and how they did it, and they pulled it off. They made it work.
Well, also the guy was on mescaline. So.
Yeah.
True.
I mean,
he was very, very high. Which, oh god, Owen Wilson, just all the scenes. I have a sound clip of his I'm going to play. I don't even know what he's talking about. It's one of the first times they introduce him, and it's him reading, and it's just, I don't even know. I don't know what's going on.
I know the whole quote, dude. I love it. It's so ridiculous. Your reviews aren't even that good. I know, but my sales are.
Like all of these characters are simultaneously like terrible but amazing, right? They all. I mean, that's the thing. The movie doesn't have faults. All the characters do.
Oh, for
characters
sure.
are terrible in a lot of ways, or broken. But they're amazing and they're so well performed, every single one of them. I mean, the most probably put together, holding it together one is Ethylene, and that's just because we don't spend a ton of time with her in her story. She's there. She was the one kind of raising the kids because of for whatever reason, getting rid of Royal, probably just because he was Royal and she didn't want to deal with that anymore. Yet they stay married the whole time. They never get divorced until the very end.
That's a lot of paperwork, man.
Trust me, it is. Trust me, it is.
That was the moment, though, where I realized that Gene Hackman's character, that Royal Tenenbaum is having the arc, is when he shows up with the paperwork for the divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I was like, oh, okay. And then, of course, how things play out, I also didn't see coming.
Yeah.
So this movie did that to me twice, which is pretty impressive. Because everything's going along and I keep waiting for like, something's got to happen. Like something devastating has got to happen here. And you get the reveal that Royal isn't actually sick, right? That he's faking it.
Yeah.
That
Which
I thought
we,
was going to be,
like,
but you could kind of see
more or
that
less
coming.
knew, but nobody else knew. Like the family didn't know. We kind of know. The part where he like fakes a seizure and he just like lays down on the ground and puts the wooden spoon in his mouth.
Yeah.
The fuck do you care?
God. So good.
That was pretty fantastic. But I thought that was going to be sort of the moment. Like even though it was, I could see it coming. I thought, okay, here's our thing. And then it keeps going. And then the private investigator is there, and he's not subtle at all. By the way, I love
No.
that's a great moment. Like that whole shot starting off, though, it's all done in a single take. It looks like with Margot and Eli. It's going back and forth, and then we cut over, we pan over, and there's the guy just standing on the rooftop next to them with the huge directional microphone and binoculars. But you get that reveal followed by Raleigh and Richie meeting with him and learning about it. Oh, and what's the kid's name? That's always
Dudley.
with
Dudley.
Oh my God, Dudley. I noticed something about Dudley that I had not noticed before. We're about to get to that part, but I'd never noticed this part of Dudley before, and it was really fun.
Huh. So yeah, they get that whole reveal, and I'm thinking, okay, this is the reveal, but that didn't even go the way that I thought it was going to go, in terms of like what they learned and then how they processed it. But then we get, Richie just gets up and leaves, and we go to that scene of him in the bathroom, and the scene starts off. I was like, I want to find my notes because, let's see, the PI is not subtle. Oh, and a great Ramones song for that montage. There was a couple really good montages in here.
Yep.
I did like She Smokes. That's his takeaway from all of it.
Yeah.
Real good.
Yep.
But then also yes, we'll get there. You're building to it.
So here's how it goes. So we see Raleigh like curled up on the couch or whatever, and his toe, he's got a bandage on his foot, which my note there was like, what's with Raleigh's toe? I didn't know what that was about. It just seemed odd. Then the notes from that point go on to, oh no, Richie's losing the sweatbands and he's cutting his hair and his beard. And then the next line, my next note is, shit, I did not see that coming.
It's brutal.
You know what still messes with me is that.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's still rough. It's still rough for me as somebody who, deals with depression and suicidal tendencies and have lost people from suicide and have gone through, long nights staring in the mirror, man. It's still a rough scene. And I'm going to touch on something is like, it's this moment of the movie that you have the Elliott Smith song playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so with this movie specifically, there's songs in my life that I can't hear without going back to this movie, right? Yeah. I can't hear Needle in the Hay without thinking about the Richie scene. I mean, it really affected me when I originally saw it, and it still, gut punches me, even though I know it's coming. This soundtrack is so good.
Yeah.
And still, like I said, it sticks with me. There's a Jackson Browne cover by Nico in this movie, man. And it's just like, even if I hear the Jackson Browne version, the original version, it brings me back to this movie. Ruby Tuesday brings me back to this movie, man. It's kind of like, and I'm excited because my girlfriend hasn't seen it, but it's kind of like Almost Famous, where like the songs from Almost Famous, like anytime I hear those songs, it's just like the scenes roll through my head of Almost Famous. And this movie has the same effect to me, man. And just Needle in the Hay. This was my first introduction to Elliott Smith, and I have still listened to Elliott Smith, on a weekly basis, and it's something that Wes Anderson movies are great for, right? We'll get to it as we go deeper into the catalog, Travis, but like he has these soundtracks that like those bands like are those soundtracks, right?
Oh yeah.
Darjeeling Limited soundtrack.
Oh
man. So it's a nice mix of, let's say, traditional Indian music because the movie takes place in India, but it's also songs of classic rock bands that aren't radio plays, but they're now your most favorite songs by that band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So
many, like, directors that know how to use a needle drop well. I'm noticing that with Wes Anderson, right? Why Edgar Wright does
Sure.
that so well with his movies. I think Guy Ritchie does that really, really well. Like there are songs from the soundtrack of Snatch that immediately make me think of that movie and only that movie.
I've never seen any of those.
So
Smoking Barrels, Snatch. I haven't seen any of them.
we might have to change that because I have been wanting to do one of his movies for a while, and Snatch particularly because that was the first one I saw. And it just there's moments from that I was doing a like this music trivia thing with a bunch of people, and somebody picked the song Golden Brown, and it played, and immediately I could just see the scenes from that movie in my head as I was watching it. So I totally get that. And I can see how that would happen, especially with something that is so visually striking as a Wes Anderson movie too.
Right.
But also, like Wes Anderson, perfectly symmetrical. Like that shot of just, the hands and the blood running down it, man. And then also the break in the song as Dudley walks in, screams, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the chaos and panic and everything that's going on, and everyone's rushing to the hospital. And then Margot comes in, and Dudley walks out covered in blood. And she's like, "Where is he?" And he dead-eye looks at her and says, Who?
I love Dudley so much. Why is he just bringing this child around with him?
But also, that is like after such an intense scene, and like this character that's like we've been struggling with, and he's struggling with himself, and he has nobody in this world he can trust because everybody, has screwed him over, and he calls them out and still trucks through everything. Like to have Dudley like be the pressure valve. Mm-hmm. Right when it's getting too tense and too high, is perfect. It's a perfect written movie, dude.
Yeah,
I can't disagree. It's so well written, and so much of the character work in this is from this script, and then actors understanding that and really running with it. And like you mentioned, I mean, there's so many main characters. There's so many characters in this. It shouldn't work. But they all do. Everybody gets their time to do something, to have an arc, and for something to go along. It's so much of it. Amy, you said there's something with Dudley you noticed this time. So what is that?
In the recovery room, right? Raleigh confronts Margot, right? He asks her for a cigarette, right? And it's the whole thing. And so, like, we need to remember that Dudley is his patient, right? It's like a whole thing, right? Like, that's how we meet Dudley. They're doing tests. It's not going well because he's a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever he is. All right, so he confronts Margot. And so he essentially says, like, that he knows everything. He gets up and leaves. And he leaves Dudley there. Dudley, everyone else is like cleaned up. Poor Dudley covered in blood. And he just leaves him with the Tenenbaums. What happened?
Oh, I didn't even pay attention to that.
I never noticed before. And I was like, wait, why did he leave Dudley? Oh, no.
In a movie full of characters I loved, my absolute favorites were Dudley, Dusty, and Pagoda. Those three.
Of course.
Pagoda stole every scene he was in. Every single one.
Just the slow unfolding
of that of this little tiny Swiss Army knife.
Of the Swiss Army knife. After already getting the story that he stabbed Royal.
Well, he saved Royal's life.
Yeah.
Because he'd been stabbed.
Yeah.
Well, he stabbed you. He did.
He did.
He was a bounty hunter.
He was a hired assassin. And then it was fantastic.
Which, is that true or not? Because Royal is a liar. Like, we know he's a liar. So did that ever happen? Who knows?
Pagoda stabbed him, though.
He did stab him.
And he does say, and I did capture it, but he does say it's the last time you're going to stick a knife in me. So, Just all of that.
Yeah, but Travis, you've never stabbed me. But if you did stab me, I would tell you this is the last time you stick a knife in me.
That's fair. That is a fair point. I like Dusty being the elevator operator at the hotel that Royal was living in until he got kicked out. And then him just showing up as Dr. Whatever. I was like, wait a sec. Because at that point, I had my thoughts that like something ain't right with Royal's cancer because he never fully comes out and says it at any point for a while. But then I'm like, wait a minute, that's Dusty. Hold on. Where's all this going? So then, the whole reveal in that room with him is great. Is brutal, but is fantastic. Just all those little moments, like when Chaz pulls him aside into the little game closet.
The game closet. Okay, but the game closet, so good.
The best parts of the game closet, though, are because he pulls him in there. He pulls the light, and they're talking, and they yell at each other for a second, and then Chaz leaves, and it's him looking over and say, "Oh, there you are," and pulling up the
the whole thing. Where's my javelina? Where's the javelina? Dude, but also on the light switch, on the pull string, is a little Monopoly house. Which is just like, who cares about that? I do, man. Because that is something that we would do in our own house. Especially if it's the game room, man. Oh, my Lord.
This is the type of movie that, I mean, I want to watch it again anyway, just because I enjoyed it so much. But I also want to watch it just to look for all those little things that I didn't catch. Because I caught a lot of interesting background stuff and like set design and prop stuff. I loved Raleigh's tape recorder, his reel-to-reel tape recorder. Second to that was probably something Margot had. What did she have? That made
the TV.
Yes,
oh
her
my
little
God,
TV.
So much anxiety. So much anxiety, dude.
It's so good. You shouldn't have an electrical appliance that close to the tub. I tied it to the radiator.
And even when she goes to click it with her toe, right? You see it shake too much. And I'm just like, oh my God. But also, I used to do that when I was younger.
Sure.
I used to bring my hamper from my room into the bathroom and then put my little television on there. But, oh man.
The whole routine where she like, when, she's in there and when Raleigh knocks on the door and she's smoking the cigarette and she puts the cigarette in the bottle and she turns on the fan and she sprays the perfume and waves it around.
Which, all right, look, Phil, you smoke. I've smoked
the whole house.
You're not hiding that. You're certainly not hiding it for 20-something years.
But also, you're going to hear the spray bottle of the perfume through that paper-thin, probably hollow door.
Yeah.
Yep.
So good.
I loved it.
And yet no one knew she smoked.
No one did. Which is why, and whenever anybody found out about it, first it was Raleigh just being like, she smokes. And then when the mom finds out, when Angelica Houston does, she's like, when did you start smoking? Or how long have you been smoking? Like 20 years. I think you should quit.
Such a mom moment. Do you know how many times I'm going to hear about it in 2 days on Christmas Eve. Like, you're still doing this? Well, I don't think you should. Well, Mom, I understand that. Right? I know this. You think I want to? I do, because I want kids to think I'm cool and I like the taste. But no, it's such like a mom moment, just like, and that's why Angelica Houston is just like, for me, and maybe for some of your listeners, like, she's always played that role for me, right? I grew up with her as the mom. And in the Addams Family, and like I fell in love with her there, and so did young Philip. It was quite the awakening for me.
Right
I'm sure for many people, but like she's always had that like authoritative stature about her, and so like that's why she, for me, is like you're saying, like there's not a real like full arc for her because she can't. She's already gone through that before we even get to this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because she has to be the base for this entire family. And she doesn't get to publicly, or especially in front of the children, show any grieving or weakness because she has to be the one thing that is consistent in those kids' lives.
Yeah.
So the nice thing is she does get to become her own person, right? Like, because we see her with the kids
100%.
and we see her like talking on the phone to the Italian teacher, you know, and she's got the chalkboard with everybody's schedule, you know, and like that's her whole life. And then when we get to meet her in the current timeline of the movie, she's got her bridge club.
Yep.
And she's got, you know, a guy, and she's got her archaeology. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
she's fulfilled. Like, she didn't empty nest.
No, not at all.
She's like, great, fantastic, check mark.
She actually hit Gene Hackman in that scene. There was no pulling punches. She actually hit him in the side of the head when he said, "I don't have cancer." And that's why he stunned back a little bit. And she kind of looked a little like, oh shit, on her face. So like, as much as he was a bully, I like to believe that Angelica still ran that set. Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
she runs any
For
set
sure.
she's on. Absolutely. No, you don't mess with her. I mean, you're not the daughter of John Huston without being able to have a commanding presence. All right. Like
Yeah.
one of the all-time commanding presences is John Huston. So it stands to reason that his kids would have that too. Yeah, it's just this movie was one moment after another of just like, I love that. Oh, that was great. And it just kept snowballing and building. And at one point I had to stop capturing audio because I'm like, I'm just capturing the whole movie at this
You're
point.
just recording the
No,
whole-
let's go through all of it. Let's do
But I absolutely got a lot of it. Starting with, I got a bunch of Alec Baldwin as the narrator, which perfect. Like his tone and everything is absolutely perfect for this. But like introducing the kids was great, and so you get this with. We'll start with Chaz.
Chaz Tenenbaum had, since elementary school, taken most of his meals in his room, standing up at his desk with a cup of coffee to save time.
This is what I'm saying, right? Because it's like that Amelie thing, right? Is it's like, it's not,
100%.
you're not really talking, like you're giving one character detail and you go, oh, I know exactly who this child is. I got the whole picture from this one thing.
And it's effective, efficient storytelling to give you so much about that character in one line like that.
Yes, I wonder if Wes Anderson liked to consume French cinema.
I also
Absolutely not.
Beautifully placed upon that instrumental "Hey Jude" track.
Oh yeah.
Oh god, that instrumental "Hey Jude" was so good.
Telling you, dude. As we go through this, man, the soundtracks are just going to get better and better for you. And I can't wait till we get to Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah.
Dude, can't wait. Can't wait.
Now I will say I didn't capture it, but I love the moment you mentioned it with Amy with the Angelica Houston on the phone with like the Italian teacher when Chaz comes up and says, "Hey, I need $187." She's like, "Write yourself a check."
Write yourself a check.
And he just hands her the check already written with the pen. Like that was great. So then we introduced Margot.
Margot Tenenbaum was adopted at age 2. Her father had always noted this when introducing her.
This is my adopted daughter, Margot Tenenbaum.
It's the way she nods.
Yeah,
The way
exactly.
she nods like a little adult.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so good.
I think I'm going to start introducing my mother like that since I am adopted. This is my adopted mother, Kathy Keating. You know what?
Brutal.
She's going to hate it.
And then you get her Margot and Richie running away to the museum? National Archives.
Museum.
And I just loved
They shared a sleeping bag and survived on crackers and root beer.
I mean, look, that's all you need, right? Crackers and root beer. It's plenty.
I mean, when you're 8, yeah.
Yeah. Hiding in the National Archive. Then we introduced Richie.
Richie Tenenbaum had been a champion tennis player since the 3rd grade.
That's all you need to know. That tells you so much about him as a person right there. But then,
For the past year, he had been traveling alone on an ocean liner called the Côte d'Ivoire and had seen both poles, 5 oceans, the Amazon and the Nile.
I wonder if he saw Steve Zissou while he was out there somewhere, crossing paths. Possible. When you get to the scene where Royal comes to the birthday party and he's critiquing the play.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's so good. And she stares daggers at him. And the other two are trying to they're trying to save him, quite frankly.
And the returning of the gift before she stands up.
Oh, that's another one of those just small, subtle things where she's upset and that's all you need. But then her putting the gift back in front of him and walking away is priceless. It was so good. And
Those kids were incredible.
They really were. They really, really were. And yet more narrator of...
He had not been invited to any of their parties since. In fact, virtually all memory of the brilliance of the young Tenenbaums had been erased by 2 decades of betrayal, failure, and disaster.
Mood.
Just all of the narration, every bit of narration. And it went away for a while and then would pop back up in parts. And it got me. Also, Richie, again, with Mordecai, his falcon, which falconing, not a thing that a lot of people do, especially in a city.
Makes sense, though. I mean,
But
why
it does.
not?
Yeah.
You can get pigeons.
Now, I don't know how true this is because, again, it's internet trivia, but
Sure.
apparently the original bird they had was kidnapped while they were filming.
What?
And they couldn't get the bird back. And so they had to replace it with a different bird. And that's why the bird had more white feathers. And if that's
Incredible.
true, that's a brilliant way to work it into work that into your movie of oh yeah, no, he's got more white feathers for some reason. I don't know why. And I like the idea that it's stress related or something.
Trauma, yeah.
But it's crazy.
I didn't
to
even
think that
question.
somebody...
I'm not a falcon expert. I'll come out there and say that right away.
No.
But I believe that to be true for 20 some years, that bird feathers can lose their pigment if they're stressed out. Not that their bird got kidnapped during production.
I did love, though, he releases him, which this moment.
The next morning, Richie woke at dawn. He had decided birds should not be kept in cages, fed Mordecai 3 sardines, and set him free.
Exactly, 3 sardines and set him free.
Sure.
Love that. But then I liked where there were the 2 moments where you hear the falcon noise in the background. There's one kind of midway through the movie, and then the one where he comes back to him. And I definitely noticed both of them. I'm like, wait a minute, that was the falcon. And then later on, I hear it again as, Richie's looking off, and then the bird lands there. I loved that. I loved Mordecai. Second favorite animal in the movie behind, third.
I really hope
really
hope
like the
that regular show named Mordecai after this Mordecai. I really hope so. I'm sure not, but I'd like to pretend.
Let's flood Travis's PO box with falcons. Everybody, we'll put it in the show notes. Everybody, go out, get a falcon, send it to the PO box.
So
we'll start a little falcon club.
Funny little backstory. In high school, I was a member of a martial arts class, and a friend of mine taught it. It was an art form that he had developed with another friend. And when you reached, there was only 4 belts in it. But when you reached the second belt, you were also given a symbol. My symbol was falcon.
Bam.
Boom.
Bam.
Wow.
And also, if you need help with all these falcons that are going to be coming into your life, your guest Alex, who was just on for Big, she is a bird expert. So you can ask Alex about birds. She's all about it.
Sounds good. More narrator, because just everything with the narrator was so good. Eli.
Richie's best friend Eli Cash lived with his aunt in a building across the street. He was a regular fixture at family gatherings, holidays, mornings before school, and most afternoons.
Like, we all had that friend or were that friend for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why are you in pajamas? Do you live here now?
Yep.
He has permission to sleep over.
I had
Literally, I was that kid, dude.
Yeah, no, I had a friend of mine who's, I went to their house and his dad, I knock on the door and his dad opens the door. He's like, why are you not? You can just come in. It's fine. Just come into the house. You don't have to knock. So yeah, totally. We also had, again, Buckley. Loved Buckley. That dog was adorable.
It was a good
Absolutely
dog.
adorable.
This is the greatest dog.
And the introduction from the flashback to the plane crash.
As did their dog, who was discovered in his cage several thousand yards from the crash site.
That poor dog survived so much to get hit at the end by Eli, high on mescaline. But yeah, I loved him. And the last narrator one was right at the end of the movie. So I mentioned how I did not see the Richie suicide attempt. That hit me out of nowhere. But I also did not see the story ending with Royal having a heart attack and dying. Like, the way everything was going, I didn't necessarily think he was like going to get back with Ethylene or anything like that. I just thought, we'll get a little, as they're wrapping up everybody's story, and then he dies. Yep. But it was fitting for his character, and the funeral was fantastic. And I just loved.
No one spoke at the funeral, and Father Peterson's leg had not yet mended. But it was agreed among them that Royal would have found the event to be most satisfactory.
The epitaph on his headstone.
The epitaph killed me. Because I saw it at first. I saw it real quick, and then I had to back up to record that little bit. And so then I got to fully read it, and I just lost it.
Why was his family on a battleship? What? Why? What?
Oh, God. And then to end with that wonderful final shot of everybody leaving and Pagoda closing the gate on Tenenbaum. Like, such a just wonderful Wes Anderson moment.
The previous graveyard scene is brutal. With the, we got another body here.
We got another body here.
Oh, God.
And again, that's like Royal is just so self-absorbed for 90% of this movie. It takes so much for him to figure out that he's not the most important person. But I captured a lot of Royal.
This movie, oh man, I hate to sum it up, but it's just watching a boomer learn empathy. The movie.
Oh, that's so good. Like one of the first things we get, the clip I played at the beginning of him talking to the kids right in the open of the movie is great. But then,
well, you make certain sacrifices.
Then you get
maybe I wasn't as true to her as I could have been.
Well, she says.
Let's just drop it, shall we, Chazzy?
That's what she did. And then, like, his relationship with Chaz is so great because he just does not get why Chaz hates him so much.
Yeah,
he just doesn't. He's completely unaware.
And I mean, so because we get the whole thing about he takes Richie to do everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And that doesn't go over so well.
But then also that scene with the lawyers as he's being sued, right? Where Chaz is suing him, and the lawyer
leans over
real quick, and he also stole, bonds for my safety deposit, and just that Gene Hackman, like, you got me. That little smirk, dude. Oh my God!
It's why he's so good.
And this is why Gene Wilder couldn't play this role.
He's not smarmy enough.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
You got me, but you know what? I still got your money. Was all said within a smile, dude. So good.
When he's talking to him, when he comes back to the house, and Chaz is he wants nothing to do with him, and you sued
me twice. got me disbarred. I don't hold it against you, do I?
I don't know. Kind of seems like maybe you do.
Maybe a little bit. I don't remember what this one was. All right, here we go.
Royal, this is Henry Sherman.
Hey, lay it on me, man. How do you do?
Not too well. I'm dying.
So that was the first moment where I'm like, oh, Royal's kind of racist too.
Yeah.
Because he immediately goes
yeah.
to lay it on me, man. And I'm like, oh, that line says so much about Royal without you having to like signpost it. Followed up by the like, not too well, I'm dying. It's just such a great delivery. Like all of that. So much happens in that. And then for him to pull this one when they're in the kitchen later.
I beg your pardon. You heard me, Coltrane.
You heard me, Coltrane. Oh man, you just want to punch him right in the face.
He also, I don't know if you caught this line, but he says the kids were raised Mick Catholic.
Yep.
Yes.
And it's just like, oh my God.
Oh, we'll get there.
I want to rub sand in my eyes. But it's such a character. It's, of course. Why wouldn't he be? Right?
Of course he would.
Of course he would.
Yeah. Again, everything with Angelica Houston's great, and this exchange between the two of them. This is Royal and Etheline.
You can't raise boys to be scared of life. You gotta brew some recklessness into them.
I think that's terrible advice.
No, you don't.
I mean,
good.
In a way, I get where the character of Royal is coming from.
Yeah.
I do. And I get her response to it. And I just love the no, you don't. You don't think that's bad advice. It's just, And then when he's talking to Pagoda later, Pagoda comes to him to tell him that that Henry, proposed, and you get,
Lord knows I've had my share of infidelities, but she's still my wife.
That's his thing. And again, it tells you so much about Royal, right? He can stray, he can do whatever he wants, but she can't.
Ownership.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's laying in his bed, he's got the whole setup, all the medical gear. He's in the house, right? He's dying, in quotes.
I never did stop loving you, by the way. You believe that?
Not really.
Not really.
That's why I love her so much, because she just doesn't care at all.
I want to know how many cheeseburgers he had to eat while he was on set, because there are at least 3 right now that I can think of, distinct scenes in the movie where he's got that tinfoil cheeseburger in his hand.
Yeah. I mentioned this one, but the whole scene with Pagoda pulling the Swiss Army knife on him outside the house is just brilliant. And then,
that's the last time you put a knife in me. Hear me?
it's the last time you put a knife in me. But it's just the smallest little Swiss Army knife too, and he slowly opens it up, and you know how it's going to end, and it still makes me laugh. And of course, I always get laughs, and I just like this little chuckle. That's the one you were talking about, Phil.
Yeah.
In the lawyer scene. That chuckle is him being like, yeah, you caught me, but I still have your money. But then for Royal to go through the arc that he does, right? Because after it's revealed that he's not actually dying, and they kick him back out of the house, and now he's got nowhere to go, right? Because he can't go back to the hotel, but he does go back to the hotel, and he tries to get a job at the hotel. And he does. And I liked that quite a bit, because it shows a little bit of growth for him. And then for him to have that moment, though, as he's walking out of the house and he sees Chaz, and he looks at him, he just says,
take it easy on those boys, Chassie. I don't want this to happen to you.
Because he figured out that, he has that moment where he says, the last 6 days have been the best of my life.
Yeah.
And then the narrator pops in with right after he said that, he realized it wasn't true.
That
so
gut punches
good.
me, dude.
It
It
really,
does.
really
It gut
does.
punches me. And you'll see if you notice when the narrator says that, like Gene Hackman's face like drops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Because that's the moment where his arc, he makes the turn, and he realizes what's going on, and I really, really liked that. And then, so for him to then say that to Chaz as he's leaving, that's when you know, like, no, he wants to be better at this point. Now he does actually want to be better than what he's been for his entire life. And then he's talking to the priest before the wedding.
Well, of course, I'm half Hebrew, but the children are 3/4 Mick Catholic.
So they were raised in the church?
I believe so. I really don't know.
He just has no idea.
Why did you bring it up?
Yeah, exactly. And then for all the crap that he gave Henry, right, and all the just terrible stuff he did with Henry, they have that moment as they're going next door to the house next door after Eli has crashed into the house and Chaz has chased him through the house and they've fought and gone over the garden wall and all of that kind of stuff. Here's Royal and Henry going to the next house over, and I just love the exchange between them because first you get,
I've always been considered an asshole for about as long as I can remember. That's just my style.
That's me.
We didn't talk enough about Eli though, because we didn't talk about his house and specifically the paintings.
Oh no, we'll get there. We're getting there. I promise.
All right.
I have things.
Right. Okay.
But the last Royal line is, so you get that right, and then
I know you, asshole.
When he's yelling at Eli as he's leaving the house, I just love that. So Eli, those paintings were amazing.
Oh my God, they're so
good.
Do you know how, like, I wanted those especially the one where they're on the quads, the four-wheelers, man. Yep. Oh my God.
So here's the bit
like
of
right
trivia.
now. Do you know how
so
good it
good.
would fit on this
Oh
back
yeah.
wall?
Oh yeah.
Like it would get rid of my light shine that I have to cover up with this foam.
Like I would put it like right below this painting I have on my wall here. Like it would be perfect. But so the bit I read about that was great because the monster masked men paintings in Eli's apartment. So they're attributed to a Mexican artist named Miguel Calderon. They were part of his exhibit from 1998 called, and I love this, Aggressively Mediocre, Mentally Challenged Fantasy Island.
This is very good.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Aggressively Mediocre / Mentally Challenged / Fantasy Island, in parentheses, circle 1. That was what the exhibit was called.
That was literally the art I drew in college, and I could have sold it just by putting slashes through my names.
But here's the thing. He didn't paint any of them. So he took photographs of his friends on like motorcycles and stuff like that, and then he didn't like them. So he hired a portrait painter to reproduce them on canvas. And he hired somebody to paint, and those were the paintings. And those are amazing. I want prints of those. They're so good.
So good.
Okay. To Etsy, I go.
But speaking of Eli, when we're introduced to him as a kid, it's fine. But as an adult, the first thing we get with Owen Wilson is him reading out of his own book. And it's just amazing.
The crickets and the rust beetles scuttled among the nettles of the sage thicket. Vamonos, amigos, he whispered and threw the busted leather flint craw over the loose weave of the saddlecock. And they rode on in the friscolating dusklight.
There were so many words there, and I don't know what he said. Friscolating dusklight. I don't even know what that means, honestly.
It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
It is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. But
that's what goes through my mind when I'm reading Tolkien. Like, there's all these words. I have no idea how this. Like, I understand the Tom Bombadil songs, but everything else is just that.
Everything else is just friscolating dusklight.
Oh my God. I need that to Etsy for that shirt. Got it.
We also get...
I'm sorry, don't listen to me. One masculine. I've been spaced out all day.
just to casually drop that. And I love Richie being like, wait, did you say you're on mescaline? And he's just in the other room pouring himself a drink.
Indeed,
Okay.
I did.
Okay, my since we're past it, I'm going to assume you didn't capture it. One of the lines I use all of the time is what this book presupposes is.
Yes.
I will just do that all the time.
Yes. That was great.
What if he didn't?
What if he didn't? Maybe he didn't.
Yeah, maybe he didn't.
When he shows up at the end, he comes flying down the road in the car and he's all face painted, right? So
so good.
Before that, we see him in the interview and they're watching that interview and he's so high in that interview. Eli is just out of his mind. But then when he's driving, he's screaming down the street in that awesome car. I loved his car. Face painted up, crashes into the house, and then he's laying there and you just get,
Where's my shoe?
Dudley brings it, right? Doesn't Dudley find it? Yeah.
Yes. And then kneels down and presents it like it's a sword and he's a page.
Yep. And the last line he has in the movie, in the little epilogue, is just great because he's in South Dakota, I think it was. Is that where the rehab center was?
The South Dakota Rehab Center.
Yeah. And
because that's all he writes.
Yeah. And I just loved.
Oh, hey, this is my sponsor, runs with 2 horses.
As he's doing the lasso tricks.
The lasso, yeah.
Oh, it was so good. Margot also had a couple of Margot and Raleigh had a couple of funny moments when she leaves the house, and she's just.
I love the part because I love when Etheline tells her like that Chaz came home, and she's like, "Why is he allowed to do that?"
The jealousy that leaks through.
It's so good. It's like, well,
I'm also sad, Mom.
And she leaves, and Raleigh and her.
You don't love me anymore, do you?
I do, kind of.
I do kind
of. With the Charlie Brown Christmas playing in the background.
Yep. And then later on, we get the amazing so both the montages, the montage of Royal and Chaz's kids, Ari and Uzi, is great. Where he's just taking them around town, like they're riding on the back of the
song.
Yeah,
so good.
They're riding on the back of the garbage truck. He takes them to the dog fights, like just all of that stuff.
They steal from the corner store.
Yes,
all the stuff he used to do with Richie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he's doing it with Chaz's kids, which is even more of a slap in the face. I'm realizing now as I think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but then you get the second montage, which is the montage of Margot through the years. From the PI.
Yeah.
And you come out of that and it's just the shot of Dudley and Raleigh and Richie and you just get.
She smokes.
Yes.
Not she was married at 19.
Yeah. Right.
Not the girl in Paris.
None of that.
No.
Eli,
none of that is important. Not Eli. None of that is important.
Nope. She smokes.
Smokes.
Oh, Bill Murray.
Honestly, that would be the only deal breaker for me too. So I guess I get it.
I do like real quick to go all the way back, like that introduction of Bill Murray's character with the slight touch of his introduction in Ghostbusters, right? Yes. Behind the screen, talking to somebody else about, testing and their mental health or their ability to
their cognitive abilities.
I don't know if it was intentional, but like it always rang.
To be right.
I don't know
if it was anyone else, maybe not. But Wes Anderson,
I don't know if Wes Anderson has seen Ghostbusters, man.
But I feel like by that
it's
point,
not
a
French from the 30s.
Like a French dub. It's cool.
Plus, by that point in Bill Murray's career, he was okay with like poking fun at himself too. Like there was some self-deprecating humor involved. He stopped taking himself too seriously, I think.
I don't know. When was Lost in Translation? Was that before or after this?
It was
right around the same, right?
After, yeah. But then his other line that killed me was I think it's right around the moment where he's getting the cigarette from her and he's talking to Ethylene and he just says, because I love this term. It's such a horrible turn of phrase and I love it.
She's bawling Eli Cash.
No, she's not. No one says that.
No
No
one uses that.
No
No one
one
actually
says
says
that.
that.
God.
In 2001, we were all saying it.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
actually say it. You're right.
guys, I guess you just had to be there, but we were using it left and right.
I didn't play this during the clips of Royal, but this has Royal in it, and it's just, again, it proves who he is.
You know, Rachel's buried out there too.
Who?
My wife.
Oh, that's right, isn't it? Well, we'll have to swing by her grave, too.
To swing by her grave.
I mean, yeah, though. Like, sure. Yeah, well, my favorite part about that when they're talking about going out to see his mother's grave, right? And Richie's like, I haven't been there since I was 8, and Chaz and Margot are like, well, I've never been there.
Yeah,
and he's just like, well, she wasn't your real grandmother. I didn't know how much you would care.
Yeah.
Oh, brutal.
2 more. Both of them involve Henry. Because so Henry and Etheline's relationship is just those 2 were adorable. Every scene with the 2 of them just made me smile. But I loved the exchange.
I love you. Did you already know that?
No, I didn't.
She genuinely did not, and I loved it. It was so good.
So good.
And then him and Royal. So Royal's already said, hey, I'm an asshole. It's kind of my style. And this was just great.
I don't think you're an asshole, Royal. I just think you're kind of a son of a bitch. Well, I really appreciate that.
I really appreciate that. That's what sets the, like, it's a great line that makes it iconic. I really appreciate that. That puts the bow on that whole exchange for me. So good.
I also, another montage right there is all of the suitors that Ethylene had.
Yes.
And how ridiculous and like Bond villain they all were. And how I want to know exactly, like, I want to know so much more about them.
Right.
Especially the man with the darked out
glasses.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Smoking a cigarette. Who is that? I need to know.
He totally runs.
And what Half-Life game is he going to show up in?
There's so much to love about this movie, and I want to sit down and just watch it again. And the funny thing is, I've owned this movie. I remember getting a DVD of it from someone years and years and years ago, and I digitized it and I put it into my digital collection and just never watched it. And I'm kicking myself for that now because it's really good. This is a fantastic movie. I did. I had to.
Terrible, terrible Wes Anderson parent.
Yep.
Oh, but you know what? I couldn't pick 2 better Wes Anderson parents than you.
Thanks.
I'm just. You're welcome. Sure.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
I'm mad and disappointed. So deal with that.
Okay, that's fine. We'll unpack some trauma. It is what it is. No, this was a fantastic movie and a great choice of a movie to watch. You're right. Saying earlier how I wanted to kind of rank it. No, it's right on par with Life Aquatic. Like, I'm sure as I go through more Wes Anderson stuff, I may kind of put things into some sort of an order at some point. But honestly, Life Aquatic and Royal Tenenbaums, they're right there. They're right there on par with each other. Rushmore, I loved. I haven't watched it in a long time. It's just below them. It's still really good. And I need to
rewatch
it.
Well, I guess we should bring on one more person who hasn't seen Rushmore, and so that we can just so that I have a reason to buy Rushmore on Criterion, so that we can do it.
There you go.
But what you 2 don't know, which I do because I was there, as soon as we got off stream for Life Aquatic, I ran so fast downstairs to watch the Royal Tenenbaums because in my brain, like, that's where the next step was.
Yeah.
So, like, I know we got offline at like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and I stayed up and watched this, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so much great for next year. Like, we're going to do this. And I loved every moment, but then I tucked it away for a year. And like, I'm so happy that not only as one of your parents, we could bring this to you, but also bring it to you for your 300th episode, and to like have this as like a perfectly wrapped, symmetrical, really wrapped present is just like
that you can leave.
That I do not want you to return. Like, I'm just happy that you enjoyed it.
You're doing a really good job on your podcast, and we're very proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I didn't listen to the first 299 episodes, but it doesn't mean that I don't care.
That's fair. I don't listen to any of the episodes either, so it's fine. No, this was an amazing way to do a 300th episode. It's a huge milestone for me. Like, I've been doing this show for years now, but to get to 300, like, I didn't think I'd get to 10, let alone 100. And I've passed that marker. I passed 200. For 200, I watched Zardoz. So I went in a very different direction for 300.
Smartly.
Yeah.
Made a different choice.
I did. Although, honestly, with the right amount of mescaline, I think Zardoz would be fine.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
Hey, I got you for Dragon Con next year. Don't worry about it. We'll do a rewatch.
But this was a great movie to watch. I'm just, I'm bummed that it took me so long to get to it. But I can't wait to do the next. I'm not watching any other Wes Anderson stuff without the two.
No, you can't.
I can't.
You're not allowed to.
No.
You're not allowed to.
So we're definitely going to do that again.
Save yourself for the podcast.
But 300 episodes, and I can honestly say of the 301, because one episode had 2 movies in it, movies that I've watched for this show, there's only 2 I can think of that I don't really want to watch again. But this, Royal Tenenbaums and Life Aquatic, are 2
the 2 that you never want to watch again. 10-4.
Are 2 of like the top ones that I want to rewatch. Like, Royal Tenenbaums is going into a regular rotation for me to watch now, because I know that every time I watch it, I'm going to find something else that I really like about it, and find something else in the background, and just the attention to detail and all of the little background moments and pieces and bits killed me. Like, the stuff that I noticed on this first watch was amazing. I can't imagine sitting and kind of picking it apart, how that's going to be. So thank you so much for being here for this episode, but also for bringing this movie to me. This has been fantastic. Amy, I'm going to start with you. You are one half of the creative team of Aquilo, correct?
I sure am. We are on break. It's phenomenal. After 3 straight months of self-promotion, we are happy to be on break. We'll be back in the spring. But in the meantime, there are 7 seasons of Aquilo for you to listen to and a book to pre-order. So you can find all of our stuff wherever you find your podcasts, or aquilo.com/book. You can still pre-order a copy. We're doing edits right now. That's very exciting. We're hoping to send that off like first thing in the new year, off to the publisher. So it's very intense and exciting. And that's what we're doing. So if you like demons and baking, come on over.
Well, I know I have a copy pre-ordered, and also Amy and I do a show together with our friends Stephen and Audie, we talk about old TV. So check that out too. Those were the days. Phil, Botched. Let people know about Botched.
I will, but first, Travis, I want to also say, like, just congratulations, man. Like, I met you through your mutual Steven Adams, the cartoon dad stuck in 1940s. Like, when I met him at Dragon Con 7 years ago, like, I fell in love with him.
How can you not?
I also realized, and we both realized this at the same time, that, like, I am his, like like photogenically opposite. Like we are polar opposite. I am his Tyler Durden. Like
Yes.
I am the goblin that he wishes he could be, and he's the dad that I should be, right? And like we always hit it off. And so like I found you through him. And so I found your show, and the way that I started to digest your show is that like I would listen to the movies that I liked and like would really just download those and listen to them. And then at some point, like once I fell in love with you, it wasn't about the movies that I liked, I wanted to listen to. I just had to consume it all because of your mind and the way that you think about film and cinema. And it's been a pleasure to kind of have you in my ears every week to like, even if I don't know the movie, that's a little bit more exciting for me because then I get to go on the journey with not only the listener, but whoever hasn't seen that movie at the time. So like, it's made it into my like weekly rotation now, and it's not pick and choosing the films. I can tell when Amy comes on just by seeing what films are coming up.
I have a type.
Dude, like when I saw Chocolat come on, I was like, "Oh, this is an Amy episode." I know this for a fact. I don't even have to check the show notes. I know it.
It was and it was an Equilo promotion episode.
Yes,
so
it
I was
was.
like, I texted JF. I was like, "Is this too on the nose?"
But listening to you straight for the last, I guess, 3 years has just been really fun. And you know, you've had a lot of my co-hosts and best friends on, and those episodes have been really fun as well. And like, I'm excited, man. 300 more, 100%. I'm here for all of it. Even the live show, I still want my money back for Borderlands, and I'm excited for, you know, whatever you do at Frog Pants Vegas this year. I'm here for all of it, man, and I enjoy everything that you produce. So,
well, thank you. That means a lot, and I appreciate it more than the words I can use to say that I appreciate it. Like getting to, you know, collaborate with you and come on to Botched has been super fun. And getting to hang out at Dragon Con, finding out that we were both about to go to Full Sail at the same time.
We almost became roommates without even knowing it.
Right.
It is wild. With
Crazy.
cartoon dad, Steven Adams. Like, that whole fact still blows my mind. Like, I tell people that don't know us and don't care, and I don't care their reaction. Like, like the cosmic shift that almost happened, like also refixed itself. Like with everything terrible in the world, like the universe actually like brought us all together because apparently we were all supposed to go to Full Sail together. So it's been a lot of fun, man. And I love you. I consider you a close friend. Seeing you and actually giving you a hug this year at Dragon Con was like my highlight. So just keep doing it, man, because I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
Well, I'm going to keep doing it because I just enjoy doing this so much. So for everybody that listens to this show and has listened for 1 episode or 300 episodes, thank you so much. I'm going to keep doing it as long as it's fun for me, and it hasn't stopped being fun. So next week, I actually have a brand new guest who's never been on the show before. Joey Image, member of the Frog Pants community, is coming on. I finally got a hold of Joey Image, and we're going to watch a movie he suggested called Suburbia. Never seen it. Don't know anything about it. But he was like, this is one of my favorite movies. We got to watch it. So I'm going to watch Suburbia. I know nothing. So come back for that because that's going to be a blast. I can't wait. Joey's fun. I think it's going to be a fantastic episode. And I got some other fun stuff. A swan named Emily is coming on soon. And as we move into the new year, all sorts of fun new stuff coming, and I've got live episodes lined up. You mentioned, Phil, TMS Vegas. There's going to be a live one in Vegas happening, and I'm going back to Dragon Con, and I'm doing another episode of Dragon Con. And maybe by then I'll get you your 1375 for we'll see.
Well, there's going to be interest with tariffs and whatnot.
Right,
so.
exactly. Yeah. All right. We'll do the math. We'll figure it out. See how many Mai Tais it takes me to pay that off.
At Dragon Con, it's half a Mai Tai.
Unless
they're $24.95.
Right, unless we go at 2 a.m. when they're just trying to dump them and get rid of them for the night.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Phil. Thank you, Amy. You guys are wonderful. I love having both of you on. I can't wait to do another Wes Anderson film with the two of you. I don't know. I have no idea what the next one will be, but I have a feeling I'm going to enjoy it. So there is that. But thank you also to everybody that listens to this. If you enjoy this show, watch it live Sunday nights, twitch.tv/tvstravis or youtube.com/@tvstravis, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And then the show comes out on Wednesdays, anywhere you get your podcasts, including YouTube. If you want it a few days early, become a patron. You can go to patreon.com/WYHS. You can sign up and become a patron. You get this show. You get my first watch diaries. Right now, I am watching The Fall of the House of Usher and talking about that. They're little mini episodes that are patron only. That show has been amazing. I love Mike Flanagan stuff. I've loved his work for years. I finally watched a bunch of his series this year, but Fall of the House of Usher is something else. So if you want to hear kind of what I think about that on an episode by episode basis, you got to be a patron to do that. So join up at patreon.com/WYHS. But next week, Joey Image, Suburbia. I know nothing about it. I can't wait for that. So come back for that. Until then, for Phil and Amy, thank you so much for being here. 300 episodes. I still can't believe it. But we'll be back. And until then, just remember to enjoy your movies and coming into 2025. So let's be excellent to each other. There's been Wait, you haven't seen.
Oh, I'm kidding. Call me Pappy. Come on, let's shag ass.
Let's shag ass. I don't know what that means. I really don't, but it just tickled me.
Well, I got some stuffies I can show you. Give me a second.